Today on the 1% podcast, we are excited to welcome Dr. Kim Keller. Dr. Keller is the CEO of the Dental Growth Group. He is a past president of the Idaho State Dental Association. He practiced dentistry for over 28 years and has now founded the Dental Growth Group, which is a parent company that has gone around and purchased 19 different dental practices. So we'll talk to Dr. Keller about operating so many different practices, working through the growth and all the pains associated with that. We'll talk to him about getting into the practice in the first place and his views on buying businesses, growing, scaling, and what that looks like from not only the perspective of a dentist, but just as a business owner. So we're excited to have Dr. Keller on the 1% podcast today. I'm a firm believer that education is the key that unlocks the door of opportunity. Absolutely. And so, number one, I'm curious about what made the decision to go back and earn an MBA, and then kind of those steps of starting to grow. What have you guys found has been helpful to be able to help recruit and retain high-level employees? What would be ways or ideas of different ways to structure some of these deals? I'm sure that it's not the same in every instance for you guys. Kim Keller, welcome to the 1% podcast. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, this will be fun. So those watching at home, you and I go way back.
Yeah.
So we'll maybe talk about that for the beginning part here. So when I was a little kid, we came to you. You were our family dentist. And so I'd come see you every 6 months or whatever it was, or if I had an issue that needed to get taken care of.
Right.
But as a young man, I went through the Boy Scouts of America program, and you were one of my merit badge counselors.
Yes.
I think for a few of them, we talked before.
Yeah.
I think probably personal finance, personal fitness, and then possibly communications as well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting how things can come.
Yeah, it was cool. I remember you and your brother, like 2 years difference in age. I think you both came to my house, and we sat around the table. And I remember communications being one. And the reason that sticks out to me is because I'm thinking, I must have done a great job, because look at what you're doing today, man. You're taking advantage of the modern day communication tools and really making it work. So good job.
Well, thank you. No, I appreciate that. And Boy Scouts of America taught me a lot of good things. So I'm grateful for that experience that I had. I'm not sure that I would be able to do it again, but I'm glad that I did at the time. So I'd love to jump in and just get to know our guest a little bit and ask questions and kind of let you talk a little bit about your upbringing, your family, what that looked like. I mean, I know your family fairly well. I'm good friends with your brother, Clint. But talk about your parents, where you grew up at, your family of origin. What did that all look like?
You bet. So my mom and dad are Treasure Valley people. Dad grew up in Caldwell. Mom grew up in Nampa. Her dad was a superintendent of the sugar factory over in Nampa for many years. And so so they married, had kids. But my dad was going to dental school in Seattle, Washington. So they've been married for a couple of years, and I was born in Seattle. Dad did a quick residency with the Coast Guard, I think, and then we came back to Nampa, where their roots were from, and he opened a practice when I was about 5 years old, 1970.
Okay.
And so then I was raised here in Nampa from first grade all the way to graduation from Nampa High School, and I'm the oldest of 7 kids, and so everybody else went to the Nampa School District as well, so it was great.
So I know your brother Clint. Well, I know you have another brother, Troy. Is that one of your brothers?
My brother Troy, he's number 3, so it's me, and then my brother Brett, he lives in Connecticut,
and he's the CEO of Priceline.
He's CEO of Priceline.com.
Okay.
Yep. And then Troy works for a big national law firm. He's down in Salt Lake City, awesome lawyer. And then Clint, a business partner of mine and a dentist. We have a sister named Leslie, lives up in McCall near your parents.
Yep.
And her husband's a dentist also. And then the next brother, Brady, is a practicing pediatric dentist in Billings, Montana. And then our youngest, my youngest sibling is Tiffany, and she lives in Rexburg, where my parents live now. And her husband's a great cop out there in Rexburg Police Department. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So I've known your parents for a number of years as well. And you had to learn a lot from your dad in particular. I got to know him a little bit better, but he was always great to our family and my kids. And whenever he would go on fishing trips, like up to Alaska, would come back and come bring salmon over to the house, and always be happy to come share that. But so your dad was a dentist as you're growing up. talk about the influence that had on you. Was that something that you knew that you always wanted to do? I'm guessing that was something that was talked about that you became familiar with and was around. But you guys grew up on some property out kind of like North Nampa area. Was that where you guys lived out when you were a kid?
Yeah, we had 5 acres of property out there, and Dad grew up. His dad was a cattle, had a fed cattle, had a feedlot, and so he made sure we had cows to take care of, and we had his chicken coop that we took care of, and big garden. So he definitely couldn't leave those roots of the agriculture and the farm stuff. So we had that to do, and growing up through our years, that was great. Wood stoves always. We always had to split wood.
Yeah.
So that was part of our growing up. Dad started his dental practice, a small dental practice, and but then grew it, and I got to watch him do dentistry, but mostly from the behind a vacuum cleaner and throwing away trash. So all of the kids, we either walked from our grade school or from our middle school to go work at the office every day after school. That was kind of how he taught us to work, and that's his whole thing: work hard. The mantra was always work, and so watching him do that, he always talked about dentistry as, he says, dentistry has been good to me. But I didn't really understand completely what that meant until I got, well through my career. And I realized that there's a lot of exhaustion and challenge that goes with that profession. It doesn't seem like it's much when you're just, in and out seeing the dentist. But there's an intense amount of concentration while you're working on people. And unlike a mechanic where you can diagnose the problem, and you can tell the person what it's going to cost to fix it, and then they can leave the car and go home, and you can call them in a day or 2 or 3 or whatever.
Yeah.
But when dentistry is going on, you can't send that person home. You've got them there, plus their head, which is they're not happy to be there, right? Yeah. They're really not excited. So there's already this amount of anxiety and tension while you're doing your craft in a person who's awake, right?
Yeah.
So you get used to it in a way, but there's always this tension and anxiety.
The pressure that comes with it.
Exactly. I mean, throw into the fact, too, that it costs money and there's financial things to work out and insurance companies to argue with. It can be a very a challenging experience. So when I think back of him saying to me, dentistry was good to me, it was good to him, and it was good financially for him to raise a family of 7. It gave him plenty of time to be able to do the things in the evenings, with church or family or things like that. So it is good in those ways, but it has its own anxiety that I just didn't realize until I'd gone through a full career of it.
Okay. So had you made up your mind early on that you wanted to be a dentist?
No.
When did that really kind of take?
It's a great question. No, when I went into my first year of college, I had an uncle who was an engineer, and I had my dad who was a dentist. Those are the only 2 things I really knew. I liked physics and math when I was in high school, and I liked biology well enough. So I kind of split it. So I'm going to take some engineering, I'm going to take some dentistry, medicine type stuff. And then a few years later, I decided I was going to be a physician. That's what I wanted to do. But took an intro to medicine class, got to observe 3 different physicians doing different specialties, and realized, I don't think it's for me. I'm going to go the path that my dad did, because I knew it. I was familiar with it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say there was a passion. It was just kind of the path just kind of kept leading that way. And a couple of my buddies that I was going to school with in college, one was a roommate, their dads, one of them, their dad was a dentist down in Southern California. The other one's dad was a fireman, but they both were going to UCLA Dental School, and UCLA for some reason was recruiting a lot of out-of-state students that year. So that's where I went. I went with my buddies. I was single at the time, so I needed friends. I didn't want to just drop off someplace.
So you did undergraduate at BYU.
Yep, undergraduate at BYU.
And went on to dental school at UCLA.
That's right. Yep. So I got to be with 2 of my very, very best friends for that 4-year ride of dental school.
Very cool. And you met your wife down there.
Yep, that's right.
So talk to us about that.
She's awesome. She's amazing. Yeah, so my wife got a...
She is an engineer. She was studying...
Exactly. She got a degree in electrical engineering, also from BYU. We never even met while we were there. We met like my 3rd year of dental school. And so she was working for Hughes Aircraft, which was a big aerospace company, and they were working on military contracts and stuff. And so that's what she was doing when we met. We got married my 4th year of dental school. and then just moved back to Idaho like 6 months later. Here, I took her out of her career, and she came to Idaho, and
Where'd she grow up at?
she grew up in Fullerton, California.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she's from down in that area.
Yep. Down there. Yeah.
So she decides to make the leap with you to come back to Idaho.
Yeah.
So had you known that you wanted to come back to Idaho? Did you guys discuss that? Did it?
Yeah, that's
did you mean
interesting.
by staying in Southern California?
My dad had the practice, and he and I had been talking through dental school about me coming and working with him.
Yeah.
That was kind of the original plan.
And he needed an exit strategy at some point.
Exactly. But then he called me, and thanks to his wisdom about this, he called me and said, "Hey, listen, there's another dentist in town. His name's Dr. Mariner Bingham. He'd been there for years." He said, "He's trying to sell his practice. So it's on the opposite side of town. I think you should buy his practice and start your own thing," which is kind of a head spinner, right? Because the whole thing is, I go work with my dad and I'm his partner. But I look back, and he was really wise to do so because, he still had more kids at home going through college and going through, they're still kids in high school, right?
Yeah.
So money flow is an important thing at any age. And I see this happen when you bring, in my career at least, if you bring a dentist into their dad's place, dad's got to give up some work to keep his child busy, right? And so in this case, I was able to go out and learn to be entrepreneurial, like right off the bat. I had to own my own business and learn things through the trial and error of what it means to own a business in America.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
How did that structure take place? What was your experience that way? So you reach out, you call him up and say, "Hey, I'm Kim Keller. You probably know my dad, George.
Yeah.
I hear you're interested in selling your practice." What did that negotiation look like? How did you do a seller finance? Did you get a lender involved? Did you mind kind of talking about that with us? That's one of the things I'm a huge proponent of is buying businesses. I'm a huge believer in people looking for opportunities to be able to buy a business and be able to come in, particularly a cash flowing business that they can bring a skill set into to help amplify that. Yeah. Love to hear about your experience with that.
You betcha. It's not uncommon for single doctors who are selling their dental practices to engage a broker of some type. So this was a company that the doctor had already engaged and signed up with. And so they kind of put together all of the valuation, the pro forma and everything. And, the guy who did it with me, it was his first time doing one. And I mean, I didn't know enough to know. I mean, I never really had a real job, right? You go in school your whole life and all of a sudden here you're going to buy a business, right? So the deal was fine enough. It seemed like it might be too much. I didn't really know. But in the end, if you've got the energy, paying a little extra for something now, knowing that you're going to just burn past this and grow this thing based on your energy, the price is totally worth it now. Yeah.
You're getting hung up over $10,000.
Exactly.
In the early 90s.
Exactly. So silly that way. I remember he says, "Now this I'm keeping in." Computers were barely getting started. He goes, "I had to pay $15,000 for this computer system, and you're buying this." It's like, okay, I don't know. I think it was really important to him because a big investment back then for that. And so I bought the practice, and he worked with me for a few months. He really wanted to exit sooner, but just dealings with the business, or pardon me, with the building we were in, and there was this confusion about how that transfer could take place. But we worked it out, and I was able to work there. And then over time, I realized really soon, after about 3 years, that the place wasn't big enough. Oh, you wanted to ask me about the seller finance. Sure. He carried that loan for 10 years. So at the rate that was pretty similar to whatever the bank rates were at the time.
Okay.
So
the seller finance option, mm-hmm. He carried the note on it with interest.
Yep.
It was, whatever it was at the time. And so you went through and just made payments to him. So you came out of school and basically said, "Hey, we make this deal," and right into it.
Yep. And then off it goes. Then I'm learning how to manage people.
Yep.
And that whole thing, when you're new, people are kind of influencing you one way or the other. You're not quite sure, what she's saying true? Is that, is this employee correct? Or are they trying to manipulate me? All those things you just don't know when you're going into it. Because I never run a practice before. I was just barely clinically able, right, to start working on people. And so I think what happened is I did start aligning myself with people who knew how the business of dentistry worked. So I started going to coaches and going to these workshops where they talked a lot about business of dentistry. because I just didn't understand a lot of it.
Did you get that in your education,
No.
or it was all focused on
There's like
the
one token
technical
class
side of it?
Yeah, there's like 1 or 2 token classes about business. And it's not that they don't try. It's just dental schools have an immense amount of things they've got to teach you before you leave.
Yeah.
And you're not paying attention in business because you're too freaked out about your test you got to take working on a live person in the next hour, right? Or a lab thing that you got to go put together, or the dozen other tests.
Yeah, balance sheets and income statements.
It's like, yeah, I'll figure this out in the future. Right now, I got to figure out how to do dentistry. Yeah. So as much as they may try, it was, we didn't get enough to help you through. So that's how I kind of started learning, was just following up on how the business of dentistry even works. And so that's when I learned, wow, if I'm going to become profitable in this more than I want to be, I need to grow.
Yeah.
Right. And so my first step was to go down I moved the office down the street after a few years. And then where I had, instead of 3 chairs, I had 4 chairs. We call them operatories in dentistry. So I went from 3 operatories to 4 operatories. And then after a while, realized that I wasn't going to grow in that either. So then we moved in with my dad. We built onto his place. I moved in with him for a while, where we had between us like 7 operatories to share. But that became obvious when Clint, my younger brother, got out of school, that we weren't all going to fit in there if we were of a growth mindset. And I don't know where I'd heard it or picked up the grow or die phrase, and that's where I lived. I wouldn't say that's necessary. I wouldn't hold to that same philosophy with as much intensity today as I did when I was younger. Okay. But I do remember this from one class in dental school, the guy saying, well, if you're in an airplane and it's going up, you have to continue putting energy behind that airplane for it to continue climbing. When you stop putting energy, it's going to start going down. It's the forward momentum that keeps that plane up in the air and rising, which I thought was an interesting analogy. So I did remember that from dental school, because that was kind of part of my whole grow or sink, right? So I always had that in me, keep growing. And I'm all about growth. It's one of my, values for my own life is growth.
Well, and so let's talk about that specifically. When you talk about growing in your business, you are investing the profits of the business back into the business. You're wanting to get into a bigger facility. You're wanting to have more operatories so you can see more patients, have a bigger staff. Basically, the way that you grow in dentistry is you need to be able to see more patients,
right,
in a fixed amount of time.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And one of the things that you're trying to find in dentistry is a way to find efficiencies, right? Because we'll tell our doctors and our staff that work for us, do you want the guy who can change a tire like Formula One drivers, or do you want the guy who can change a tire like my son, who I taught how to change a tire yesterday and did his first one? If you're on a freeway, do you want someone who can do it fast and efficiently, or do you want someone to take their time and just piddle around with it for an hour? Nope. No, you want, because the people who do it well and do it quickly, they've practiced it so many times. It's efficient. It makes sense. They've got their team that works with them. You want the Formula One people, doing your dentistry or doing your heart surgery or whatever it is. You want people who've done this so many times. But it's tempting sometimes to think if I take a long time, it's going to be better. Yeah. Right?
People think I'm more thorough.
Exactly. But it's the repetition that makes the difference. And so for us, you're correct. We learn to become more efficient because we do better work that way. The patient's not in there for as long amount of time, and they get what they need by people who've done it so many times. It's easy.
Yeah, and I'm sure for a lot of your patients, I mean, like myself, right? I'm busy. If I'm scheduling, I have to go to the dentist. Like, okay, how quickly can I be in and out? Right? If I'm at faster rather than in an hour or 2 hours, I would rather be done faster. And so I'm guessing that a lot of other people are that same way. So that if you can increase your efficiency, makes it more appealing to your.
That's right. And a lot of it is being able to hand off duties that are legally allowed that you would train people to do, that you don't have to sit there and do every single one of these procedures, right? So I don't have to clean the room afterwards. I don't have to even get the patient numb. You have hygienists who have gotten thousands of patients done, but they can do that. So the doctor could be finishing up another room and then come in and work on the patient, doing what he or she has been well trained to do. Yeah. And so that kind of learning those skills and trying to become more efficient really weighed into the next phase of how I grew my company is whole thing was like, people want to get in now, right? Yeah. And so and people need to be able to call the office to get in, right? So we built our growth, and part of the reason why at some point when Clint and I saw we can't make this work in the same place, I bought a building right across the alley, and it was an old grocery store. It'd been there since the 40s.
Huh.
But it had 10,000 square feet of openness, right? So it gave me this playground to build an office of how I think that it would be an ideal place for people to come.
Yeah.
So for efficiencies and for elegance or whatever it might be for the Nampa community, right? So, but you build that, then you got to grow into it, right? And so our main thing was we had to ad out all the time in the Yellow Pages for years. It had a picture of a guy holding his head saying, couldn't sleep last night, got a toothache. Call by 10 a.m. and we'll get you in today.
Wow.
And so that was the growth strategy, was just say yes when people want to call. And so
say yes, just find a way to get them in.
Yeah, and instead of Emily answering the phones from 8 to noon and 1 to 5 and Monday through Thursday, it's like, no, open the phones all the time. So we opened 7 to 6. Even if we weren't seeing patients, I made sure someone was answering the phones.
Yeah.
So now you got 7 to 6 Monday through Friday, and even Saturdays we open for half a day.
Yeah.
That's a big net for taking phone calls.
I remember noticing your sign that said like appointments available on Saturdays or something like that.
Yeah. And so, and I would have friends come to me, dental colleagues, and say, how come you're growing so much? Tell me what you're doing. I'd say, this is what you do. Nobody, you take shifts and people answer the phones at lunchtime, and you answer phones earlier than 8:01, and you answer them after at 5:04, answer the phones when people want to call, don't shut them down, and answer it all the time. And then just work people into your schedule because they want to come in today if that's what they need, and take care of them the best you can. If they need to come back for follow-up, great. But that's how we grew quickly, was just that. So a lot of people don't want to do that, right? That's like, nah, it's not the life I want. I really wanted to just take it easy, go at my speed, which I totally get. That's the beauty of my profession, is there's a lot of ways to do your profession, right? You can just go slow and take it easy if you want to, and that's fine. And
you're still going to be successful to a degree, but that wasn't what you wanted.
Right. I knew that we could get, we could treat more people who wanted this immediacy if we get ready for that.
And it sounds almost overly simplified, but to say that just saying yes is a great growth strategy.
Yeah.
Right. Like just saying yes, just saying we'll figure out a way to do it. We'll take on the clients, we'll take on the patient, and we'll figure out a way to make it work in the schedule. And I think that so many businesses fail to grow because they're concerned about the structure before they just say yes, right?
Yeah.
Before they figure out, hey, we're going to say yes and we're going to figure out a way to do it, right? I don't know exactly how this is all going to look, but if we have too many patients, if we have too many clients, that's a good problem to have. I'd much rather have that problem than, why can't we get people to come in here? Well, it's because you tell every other person no, or you say, oh, we're booked out 3 months. Sorry. Like, we can call you in August and see if we can get you in. It's like, well, this person doesn't want to wait till August, right? They need to take care of it.
And I will tell you, that is one of the biggest challenges in dentistry today, is what COVID brought to us and what we brought, and the newer way of looking at what a job is anymore. Cell phones, how many times do you not answer your cell phone when it rings? It's like
all the time.
All the time, right? But that's the mindset of those who grew up with cell phones.
Yeah.
So to them, it's like, of course it goes to voicemail if you call a professional office, because that's what phones do.
Yeah. I'll
answer it later. I'll listen to it later when I have time to do it. So, and I didn't even know this until the last couple of years. We really started tracking the phone calls. We have 19 dental practices total now. So we've grown to that. But when I started tracking the phone calls and how they're getting answered, only about 65 to 70% of the phone calls actually get answered when somebody calls. And it blew me away. I didn't know that's what was going on. And there's multiple reasons for it. One, it's just hard to have enough staff members to handle phone call volume. That in itself, plus there's lots of duties they have to do as well.
Yeah.
But there is a culture of why should I answer? I can listen to the voicemail later.
Busy, yeah.
And I'm busy right now.
Yeah.
So that concept is really kind of it's the next nut we're cracking. It's like, do we start using AI? We're probably going to have to, and in some ways, and we've been testing it in some of the practices, AI and answering the phone and trying to schedule patients, because the challenge of staffing has become so great. And I know in many businesses, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to the fast food store and I see people, it's like every other month there's a new person in there, where it used to be the same person who worked there for a long time.
Yeah.
So we deal with those. COVID just ransacked our hygienists in the country. The dental hygienist just said, I don't want to do this anymore.
I was going to say, I want to ask you about that, because this is something I've heard, that this is really like an epidemic of sorts, where getting dental hygienists is very, very difficult. Maybe explain that a little bit, if you could, to the listeners that may not be as familiar. Obviously, hygienists are imperative to being able to run a practice.
Absolutely.
But it's not inexpensive to go to school for that profession, and getting paid adequately, and maybe just kind of talk through that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So dental hygiene has been a core teamwork within the dental office.
Yeah.
And COVID really just kind of put us on, because COVID did lots of things. First of all, people stayed home for a while. So even if you have 6 weeks of people staying home and like, oh, I like being home. And then not only that, but COVID brought directly to the dental office this fear of being really close to somebody when you've got this potential harmful virus that can, so during those early times, we had no clue what we were dealing with, still trying to figure it out. So a lot of hygienists were really like, I'm not going to go to work and get this close. I'm closer than anybody is, right? So why should I be there? And that's scary. And so a lot of them decided being off for a while. It's like, I think I'd rather just be home, or I'd rather work less, or one of our hygienists decided to go work for the rec center, and just, and work there instead, to give him a whole career for that instead. And I think that, but good for the folks for saying what works for me, right? Because it's got its own set of stresses, and they can have more of a flexible schedule if they like. But a lot of them just took the time to say, I think I'm done. I'm out. I'm not going to do the profession anymore. So what that did is that brought a big shortage. And so we try to ramp back up again, and patients are calling, and you can't get in for a long time because they just want their cleaning.
Yeah.
But there's no hygienists. We struggle to get them. So, and the schools can't give us enough of them to keep it going. I think it's starting to catch up, but it's still got its challenges.
Talk about the role that insurance companies play in dentistry, and in what you can bill for certain procedures being done, how that then affects you as the business owner of, okay, well, I have to pay my staff a certain amount.
Yeah.
I can only charge a certain amount as dictated by the insurance companies.
That's right.
And how do I be able to make this work, because we have inflating costs? All my staff have inflating personal costs.
Yep.
How do I balance to be able to make this worth it to them and to the business, to be able to actually do this and to employ and to find good people? Because it's not like you can just go throw a bunch of money at other people and say, here, if you would just become a lot better, you can go make a lot more money. It's kind of fixed.
Yeah.
Based on what they can do in the
It is a huge, huge challenge. It's part of what happened with the COVID. So dentists, I'm back just a little bit. Dentists learned during 08 and 09 that we could survive. Dentistry was recession proof, right? I mean, my company took like a 10% dip in revenue in 2008, 2009. And I kept all my staff.
50 to 60%.
Yeah. And I kept all my staff, right? And it was okay. I had enough backed up over time. I could keep them and guarantee them a job and say, we're going to get through this together. But what we didn't understand about dentistry is it's not inflation proof, right? I mean, it used to be the margins were very big in dentistry. They're really, really shrunk. And so it's a new challenge because all the costs went up. But just like you mentioned, insurance companies don't raise it because they've got their costs. They got their staff. They're trying to be competitive out with, with who they're selling the policies to.
Yeah.
So they had costs go up, but they're not passing on to us the increase. And so we may see 1 or 2%, while salaries are going up.
You're the one that gets squills.
Yeah, completely. So we've seen in dentistry just a dramatic, dentists, I'm not complaining, I'm just saying it's what it is. Dentist salaries have gone down a lot over the last decade. But a lot of that's because our margins are so much smaller, because all the staff costs went up. And so, which is part of the reason that we're doing consolidation, bringing other practices in to try to get, just to be able to get scale and to be able to try to find ways to lower our expenses by specializing certain people to do insurance or those things. But you're right. It's insurance it's a double-edged sword. I mean, people come to us because they have insurance, but we really have to agree to big discounts to get the patients to come in.
Gotcha.
To be signed up with the insurance company.
Yeah. So talk to us about that, how your business, what did that look like with you making the decision to grow your company?
Yeah.
It sounds like you always kind of had the growth mindset.
Yeah.
Growing your own practice is different than going out and doing mergers and acquisitions, right?
Totally.
So you go out and you start doing M&As, which I also want to hit on the fact that you went back to school at some point and earned an MBA, which, I had gone back to school and went and earned a master's degree as well. And people would ask me all the time, like, why are you going back to school?
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer that education is the key that unlocks the door of opportunity.
Absolutely.
And so, number one, I'm curious about what made the decision to go back and earn an MBA, and then kind of those steps of starting to grow through purchasing the practices.
So, I'm always of the growth mindset. It's like, if we're not growing, then it's, then you're not, you just got to grow. Right?
Yeah.
But I guess I mentioned earlier, the whole grow or die thing, I'm kind of rethinking what that really means, and someday maybe we'll go into that more in depth.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that I don't believe in growth, right?
Yeah.
It's just how I live it. We grow personally, we grow in our business. But in that situation, in growing the practices, I learned that I enjoyed the business part more than I enjoyed the clinical part.
Okay.
Because if you're growing in a dental practice, you have to learn the basic business of running a small business. It's a challenge, right? You've got to learn all the things about how to market, how to treat people the right way, how to work with the government and the insurance company. So you're growing your small business. So, and I like that more. And I was at a point where my business was big enough that I could just pretty much live off of I had 3 doctors working for me. I had 6 hygienists working for me, a big location. And really, it got to the point where I could work less and less and less and not even have to do dentistry and be able to make the same living and have all this equity in my company. Yeah. Right. So that's why I said, I'm going to go get an MBA. I thought about it for a long time. It'd be just kind of interesting, part of personal growth. So I did that and got that in about 2021. I went to NNU over in Nampa and then just started seeing the business in a little bit different light, seeing that, it's not only dentistry that does this. All businesses deal with these issues.
Yeah.
And then when I began to learn more about it through the MBA, I, at the same time, started buying another practice, brought some partners in and said, hey, some of my employee doctors, you want to join me and buy another practice? And so we did, and it went well. This is great. At the same time, my brother Clint, he and his partner, they went and started buying other practices. So at the same time, I'm buying another practice or two. They're buying some practices. Okay. And we realized, hey, we're doing this kind of roll-up thing at the same time. Why are we competing with each other on this? We'll work better together. So in 2021...
driving the prices up on each other, trying to buy this.
Exactly. So in 2021, we combined and we created something called Ume Dental Growth, which is it's a Japanese word. Ume. It's from a type of Japanese plum. Okay. Because the building that I'd bought so many years ago was called the Plum Tree Building. It had the Plum Tree Restaurant, the Plum Tree furniture store. And so we then became Ume Dental Growth and began the process of buying practices. And that in itself has been quite an experience. One thing that they always say is it's always the downfalls when people grow too fast, right? And we grew fast. We bought in 23, bought 10 dental practices. I didn't know dental practices could actually lose money. See, my life was dental practices are always successful. We can just grow them. But some of the practices that we bought, we thought, we can turn these around because it's what we do all the time, right? We know how to do this. But when you invest, you get a loan, you invest in that, and now you got loan payments, and now you got practices that are actually taking away from your bottom that you're used to taking home. Yeah. 23 was a big wake-up call for us. We were not prepared for the growth as far as financial things go. We didn't have the right people in place to manage that kind of bookkeeping. And because bookkeeping And this model we have is very complicated in that we have multiple entities wrapped up into one entity.
Yeah. So each practice is its own entity, but they're all held under this parent company.
Yeah, exactly. So we learned in that year that we had to, in ways we hadn't done for 20 years, me and Clint and Jason, we tightened our belts and we said, wow, we have got to learn how to rein in the issues and the problems, things we never thought we'd have to deal with before.
Yeah.
And one of the big things we deal with in our profession today is we have young doctors getting out of school with $500,000, $600,000 in debt, right? So that you need a salary of some measure to be able to do that, but you can't produce enough to give you the salary that you think that you need, right? Unless you go work for the government or somebody's going to give you a thick salary where they can write off your loans or something like that. So we've got people with huge loans need a higher salary but can't produce enough to make it pay for them. So now if they're an associate doctor who works for you, it's very possible that the young doctor produces enough for maybe his or her lifestyle, but not enough for the business to be profitable.
Yeah.
And so we really had to learn how do we consolidate some of the things that we do, consolidate some practices. We learned to sell some. We just can't put the energy into some of these.
Okay.
And then really started to focus.
So some of them you sold.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sold a few of them. And we also learned that the practices that do the very best are ones that have doctors who are part owners with us. So the model we have going forward is we're never going to buy a practice outright and put an employee doctor in there in the future.
Yeah.
And this is what we're seeing a lot in the larger groups like ours now. That's some much larger than ours, right?
Yeah.
But
this is a national trend.
The national trend is, it's good to have a doctor who has skin in the game, who's a part owner in that practice, because their mindset changes immediately when they start to see, okay, if I spend money here, that comes out of my pocket over here.
Yep.
Where you don't see that of an employee doctor. You're just like, hey, I need to do the best I can to be a great doctor.
Yep.
Give me all the things that I need. It's like, well, I want to.
I need more of these. I have a lot more wants, right? They're more focused on wants than they are on needs.
Yes. Yeah. So we've learned that that's the model that we do going forward. And we've become so much better and efficient at handling the financial part for the doctor and handling our deals with, suppliers. And we're getting better at it. And training people is huge too, right?
Yeah.
Getting a good LMS that we can put together that at least standardizes the most important things we need to standardize as we train new front office and new assistants and.
So the way that you're able to make this work from your end is you can create efficiencies by streamlining the training process. I'm guessing by moving employees, even like between practices if needed. Moving doctors between practices if needed. You probably have centralized billing and things like that.
Exactly. Moving into that.
Calls can all be centralized with how they're coming in.
Yep.
Rather than having to pay 19 different people in 19 different practices to answer the phone, we can consolidate that with only a few people. Same thing with our billing, same thing all the way through, right? You can build all those efficiencies.
Yep. But they don't happen overnight though, right? Because you find that if you try to make too big of a change overnight,
sounds great.
Everything sounds great in theory. But once you try that, you get uprisings, you get people who are like, what's going on here? They didn't handle this right.
People, and I've been here for 20 years.
Exactly. So you learn that the part of being an entrepreneur is always thinking of a new idea, right? But the bigger your group gets, you can't pivot as fast anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of
the bigger the ship is, the slower it turns.
Exactly. So it's like, I'm always telling people, this is a great idea, but here's how we're going to stage this. We're going to start first of all with one practice. We want somebody who's going to, I'm going to use the word politically, going to be on our side, right? They want to try this new thing. They want to, if they like it and it goes well for them, now we have an advocate when we present it to everybody else.
Yes.
Right. Versus if we say we're all doing this tomorrow, some people just get really torqued off. And others like, well, why'd you wait so long?
Yeah.
Right. But usually too much change means too much complaining. So we got to take it slow.
And so you get economies of scale in how you're purchasing anything that you need for any of the practices, which I'm guessing there's savings that way by buying in a lot larger volume and everything that you do. Talk to us about the way that I'm guessing in some of these cases, you've been able to buy practices. The doctors are wanting to sell. They're needing an exit. Yeah. But in other cases, maybe they're not looking at that yet. And I'm just guessing, I don't know, but maybe you proactively go reach out to them and say, hey, we have this way of doing this. We can make your life a lot easier. You no longer have to worry about running the business of the practice. You get to focus on being a dentist. You get to do the technical parts of what you went to school and got educated to do. maybe talk to us about that. How do you identify practices that you want to go by? How have you structured those? You talked about the doctors coming on board as a partner, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Either a partner in that entity or a partner in the parent entity, if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah. Great question
about that.
So when you're first starting off in this, and it's like, you're just like, oh, we just got to go buy practices. It's like not really paying attention to how good the quality was.
If 7 chairs is good, 10 chairs is better, 100 chairs is better.
Or 4 chairs, just something, it's like, we're hungry to grow it. And so that was the first thing we didn't have a really good model for what it was we thought we wanted to purchase and bring and how to grow into the future. So that was part of the reason we brought too many in that second year that just overwhelmed us, because we really didn't thought through the types of practices that we wanted or what that was going to look like. And we have some of our owners are people who rolled up part of their practice equity into the parent company equity. And others have just stayed on, just only they have, half of their equity in the practice that they sold the other half to us.
Okay.
We are always exploring what's the best way to go. I'm not positive that if someone just has full equity in our company, or if they roll their equity into our company and don't have something at the practice level, we're not so sure that's the best long term for us, because if you don't feel a need to see where you're working every day be successful, it's easy to hope that the bigger group just does well.
Sure.
Right. So in the future, it'll either be, I see us going to a larger practice. And we took a pause for about a year just to organize and get stabilized.
On your efficiencies.
Yeah, which is so much better. Now it's great. Now it's like,
form.
Yeah, big breath, but what a time to get to go through, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm used to getting paid this much and I'm not now. Hey, 20 years this way and a year this way. No, I don't like this. So, but we learned so much. And so now our model would be, I would go find a practice that has a certain amount of chairs, certain amount of profitability, and a doctor who's a few years out, and say, hey, why don't you, we'll buy 25% of your practice. You can roll 25% up to our larger group, but you still own 50% of the practice, and let's do this together. We'll help you find a doctor, because now we have a good pipeline of young doctors. We get to meet them. We know how to reach out to them. And so we can say, hey, we will help you find doctors who will be your eventual replacement. And because it takes a while, young doctors, they come out of school, they're like, I don't know if I'm here for a long time.
Yeah.
The whole idea of the past was you buy a dental practice, you plant your roots in that town,
You're there.
You support the football team, and you do all the other things in that community, and that's who you are. But that's not what we're seeing now. We're seeing people like, I'll try this for a while, and then I'll move someplace else, if it works for me or if it doesn't work for me. So how do we manage through that is the next big thing in our profession. How do we deal with the idea that providers aren't really thinking that I'm here for a long time? But that was what our older generation, we value that in our healthcare providers. They're there for my life, But now we're not seeing that.
Well, I think a few of those points that you hit on apply to a lot of companies. I know that we deal with this in some of our businesses. And I know a lot of other people we've had on here, just friends or associates, they deal with that as well, right? You really have to get your team to buy into whatever it is you're wanting to change, right? Like you as the owner can't just have the idea that, hey, this is what's in the best interest of the company, and I'm going to go snap my finger and send out an email and tell everyone that this is the way that we're now doing this, and everything just changes overnight. It doesn't.
Yeah.
You have to learn to cater and to influence and persuade and to work with the people that are on your team and help them to realize that the changes that you're wanting to make bring benefit to them.
Right.
And often those changes have to be maybe slower than you want them to be, but you have to get people there by degrees in a lot of instances. I also think there's a lot of wisdom in what you guys have done with, as you purchase these companies. Again, you can't just snap your fingers and say, hey, they completely integrate into the way that we do things. And I'm sure that that's probably brought a lot of challenges as well to create uniformity between all these different practices that probably all ran completely differently.
Yep. And that's the big challenge, because it's that balance of, do I bring to you my way and you need to do it? Because if I do that, I know all of you are most of them are just going to leave. It's like, I don't, the staff member's like, I don't want to change. I'd rather go someplace else and change, which again, it makes no sense. But
I'm not going to take that for you. I'll go somewhere else and make it.
Exactly. It's so funny. But the trick is to be able to say, hey, we're with you. We're not going to change fast, but we do have some things that over time we need you to do it the way we do it. Like, for example, when we do payroll, it's got to be the same, right? We're all going to, so you're going to join our payroll. You're going to need to report to us the same way that everybody else does. If it's, how you pass instruments between yourself, between the doctor and the assistant, we're not going to get in the middle of that, right? But also, we're just going to talk about the things that we can do to help be better for you in the long run. And over time, we will say, these are the things that are standard that you need to do. And these are things that you have a lot of room where you have the flexibility to do what you'd like to do. But that's always a challenge because, especially in healthcare, especially in dentistry, the last thing we want to do is tell a dentist how he's supposed to do a dentist or how she's supposed to treatment plan, because we don't want people to think that they're being given a quota of what they have to do. There's dental disease out there and it's all over the place. There's plenty to do. All we need our doctors to do is just diagnose it properly and give the patient the options. So it's called autonomy. We really value the sanctity of that doctor's autonomy to treatment plan according to their experience, their skill, their art of their practice, and say what's best for the patient, because I had that conversation. Yep. What they don't need is a larger group, a corporate group saying, you need to do it this way, need this many fillings and this many, crowns, this many. We don't want to do that. Yeah. Right. And so the best you can do is show benchmarks. Say, here's what the average is doing in our community. Here's how people work here. Here's some ways to find efficiencies, right? And here, let me have you go watch a doctor who's really efficient at these things. Go see how this works, because we know you got the skills to be able to do it. Yeah. So there's that trick of balancing the clinical part, which is you need to let the doctor have that autonomy in clinical part. But then there's the business part where we need to come in and say, no, these are standardized things. And I spent several months putting together what a report. We give all of our offices a profit and loss statement every month. Wow. And, they have standards that they need to be trying to reach for. We know what it's supposed to look like. We include the doctors, whether they're employee doctors or whether they're owner doctors. And we include what we call a clinic administrator. So they can start to see, here's the business side of this. Here's what happens in dentistry. Here's your profit and loss statement. But what it doesn't show is all the systems that lead up to why your expenses were high here, or why you're not as efficient as you could be, and the many, many systems that there are. So I created a sheet that I call the 10 basic systems of dentistry, and it goes all the way from new patient phone call to payments and the treatment, and then also scheduling back. And we created a KPI for each one of those 10 systems. And so now I give them the profit and loss statement. Then the next page, I call it page 2. So page 2 is a list of all of these KPIs that attach to each system.
Key performance indicator.
Exactly. That means, yeah. That goes with each system, and then show them a comparison to how the rest of the offices are doing. So it's really cool because now they have the ability to say, well, okay, why am I so low? And so I green, yellow, red, I show them where your KPI matches compared to where a target should be and where other offices are. And you know how it is. Every business has some places where you shine and a place where your system is just stinky. And the system could be stinky because you haven't trained people right, or people are just, or people just don't do their part of the system that they're supposed to be doing, so it just falls short. And it's hard sometimes to know what is it, right? Is it your lack of attitude and motivation, or is the fact that I've created a poor system, So a lot of that is just trying to go in and teach them how to spot the deficient system. So when we're changing over to new ownership, I can say, okay, let's just look at all these systems. And you may not be aware of all these systems because you were a dental assistant, now you're in charge, but you don't know all about the insurance stuff. Or you're a front office person and you really didn't know how the clinical stuff works. So let's look at all the systems where you might have some blind spots and find which ones need to be worked on. We have a standard that when we apply this standard to your practice, you can raise the KPIs in this particular system. So that's something that's been fun for us to do, which you get to do after you've worked through the stress of practices not doing well, and you finally get organized. And it's like, okay, let's focus on the fun stuff.
Well, I'm guessing you've had a variety, right? You've had a spectrum of where these different practices are performing at. Some of them probably have really well built-in efficiencies where it's very systematic from the time the patient arrives, or even phone call of what this looks like all the way through. I mean, I've been to different practices where I mean, it feels like a well-oiled machine, right? Like
Yep.
it feels like the Formula One thing where you go in and each thing is really clear and they're communicating on headsets. And I mean, I'm not waiting for 30 seconds between
Right.
anything being done. The doctor comes right in,
Yeah.
boom, I get checked out. It's like, you're on your way. And I'm guessing there's probably others that probably never had any systems put into place.
More that than the other,
Okay.
to be honest with you. I mean, but again, you go back to dentists, that's not what they were taught.
No, they were taught to be a technician.
Yeah. And because of today's society and the way that things move quickly, that's the biggest challenge we have, is just teaching people. And the next thing is, with the churn, employee churn has been a big thing. I don't know if you guys deal with drivers or with people. I mean, it's tough. I remember during COVID, I was in Vistage Group, and there's a guy, they had 100 drivers, and they were like 90% turnover every year because it was just so challenging to keep people. And even in our profession too, it's like you train somebody, and then somebody thinks that, hey, I'm going to be able to get $1 an hour more over here, and then they go take that training someplace else, and so you find that you're always having to train new people, and that works into your efficiency.
What have you guys found or ways to retain employees? Something that we have really tried to focus on, obviously, our environments. Like we've invested into making our locations really nice, really building our team and our culture, setting that and building a vision, and everyone understands the company mission statement, the company vision, the company values. That's something that we preach on all the time. But also investing back into our employees. Like it is a huge part of who we are as a company, and right in our mission statement, our mission is to help our clients and our employees. And so, we feel that is an imperative part of our growth, is that our employees have to not only feel, but to know that they're valued, and to know that there's opportunities for growth for them, and that the company is constantly reinvesting back into them to create more opportunities in the future. What have you guys found has been helpful to be able to help recruit and retain high-level employees?
Yeah, similar things. We've got like 250 employees, right? So there are sometimes, I agree with everything that you said there. The challenge is you've got the new entrants who are just trying you out, right? And who haven't, who you're trying to get to be part of the culture, but you just don't know how they fit yet with the culture. So what we've learned over time is we definitely invest well with the people that we know are fitting the culture and understand the culture. And then we try to have them explain the culture, teach the culture to new folks. And if they grab a hold of it, then we're able to move it along. I feel like I kind of explained that in a lame way, but all those things where you define your vision and you've got your mission and you've got your value stated, we continue to talk about those things. But in the moment where it's really hard and when the profits are low or losing, you find yourself coming in and just, saying, we got to turn this thing around, what's going on here? And it's hard to keep those things in mind at that moment, right? And as the leader, it's our job to be able to exemplify that when we walk in and talk to people about those things. But there's another anxiety that says, we got to turn this thing around, right? So
there's payments on this practice. There's money that's due. Right?
Exactly. And so those things get in the way. I found that when things were good, when the profitability was well, I really shined doing all those things.
Sure.
But when
everyone does when it's easy, right?
Yes.
When you're winning the football game by 4 touchdowns, it's really easy.
You can go
culture.
Exactly.
Right? It's a lot harder when you're losing.
A lot harder.
4 touchdowns.
Yes. So I'd say we're still practicing that, and we're getting better at it. I love how we get better at it all the time. So I probably would leave it at that.
No, that's great. Couple things I want to hit on before we start wrapping up. So I'm a big proponent of people buying small businesses, right? Yeah. I'm a champion for small businesses. I believe that most people would have a great career if they chose the path of looking for a business that suited their aptitudes and what they are passionate about, and they pursued ownership in some sort of a business, whether that's on the side in addition to their career they already have, or if that is transitioning to something like that. Talk about, I ideas, experiences, things that you had as you guys have gone in and purchased some of these businesses, what would be ways or ideas of different ways to structure some of these deals? I'm sure that it's not the same in every instance for you guys. In some cases, different things matter to different people. And so I'm guessing that for some of these doctors that you're going and buying their practices, maybe stability is the most important thing to some of them. For others, it's, hey, I just want the highest price I can get. For others, it's, hey, I want to get rid of all this stress that I have and I just want to be able to focus on my craft. How are different ways? I mean, to what extent you're able to? Can you go into how you've structured those deals, whether that's owner finance, whether you've brought in an outside party to do some of those, whether that's all rolling over equity into a company, if you don't mind kind of talking about it.
No.
I like giving people ideas of ways because, I mean, you said yourself as you came into the business, you didn't show up with a pile of cash and say, here you go, I can go buy this practice today. And okay, hey, Kim was set up because he rolled in with a wheelbarrow full of cash and went and bought a practice. You worked your way into the equity of that over time.
Yeah, absolutely. So dentistry is odd in this one thing, is that a dentist in 43 states, a dentist must own the dental practice by law. So a non-dentist can't own the dental practice. So it makes for a really strange business scenario if you're trying to bring in investors. Like a couple of people who own our parent company are not dentists, right? So technically, they can't own a dental practice. So what we have to do is we create, this is where it gets a little bit.
And Idaho is one of those 43 states.
Exactly, yeah. So we have the PLLC that owns the professional dental practice. And a doctor has to own it. So I own, like, my name is on half of them, right, as the donor. And one of my other partners is on the other half. And then we create another LLC, which can have dentists or non-dentists be the owner. And that LLC then owns all of the non-clinical assets of the practice, the equipment, the chairs, we manage the leases, all those sorts of things. And then the dentist owns the clinical assets. But through a management services agreement, all of the profits get swept from the practice up to the LLC.
Yep.
And so now the value of the business is up here in the LLC, not in the practice anymore. Yeah. And so in that case, then I would say, doctor, if we want to partner with you, we're going to create this LLC, and you are going to own half the LLC or 25%, whatever it might be, whatever you can afford right now. We will own the other part of the LLC. And then we have a management fee that we charge for the work that we do with all the staffing and managing staff things and financial things and making the deals. And then the profits, everything left in the profits are going to split according to percentage of ownership. So that's what I would do today. I'd say, hey, doctor, you want to buy it? We're going to create this other entity. You're going to own part of the entity, and then we'll own the other part. And we like them to buy up to 50% if they can. That's the more ownership they have, the more excited we are, because then they get to see the benefits of growth with us.
Yeah. And I think that what you indicated there also plays true in so many businesses, certainly does with some of our companies, and I know it does in lots of others, that having sometimes a macro vision of the company, right, for the people in the individual, like in your case, the doctors in the individual practice, just their vision of the macro of the entire company isn't as incentivizing, or I think that in times people can feel that, well, maybe other people are responsible to make up some of that value, as opposed to having and feeling the weight and the responsibility to make their individual location, branch, office, practice, whatever it is, to make that profitable, because that is what relies on them. And ultimately that aggregation of every individual practice being profitable, I guess, I mean, you've kind of hit on that a little bit.
And that was what we offer people. Say, hey, you can buy part of the practice and you'll see the immediate results come back to you in profits.
Yes.
Because you'll get that percent. If you roll up to the larger group, I can't promise you profits, right?
Yeah.
Because we're in growth mode.
We're buying companies. We don't have a ton of extra cash.
Exactly. So it's going to be hit and miss when we decide to, hand out distributions. So
if we ever go sell to a private equity company or whatever in the future, then there'll be a payday for you then.
Exactly. So some people just don't know that that's what they want. So we try to say, you can have a choice. You can have the immediate money right now by owning a percentage of the smaller company, or you can roll up and trust us that we're going to do the very best we can to grow everything. And then someday, if there is when the big transition comes, then you can benefit from that at a better level than you could at your own small level. But it's a trick, right? It's a tough call. Everybody gets to make their own thing.
Do you feel like that you would have gotten to where you're at right now had you not chosen to go back to school and go your MBA? How much of an influence do you feel like that has had on you with these decisions that you've made?
Yeah,
you've chosen.
Great question. I would say that MBA didn't really make me smarter, right? Because there's like 15 or 16 different disciplines that you have to study. You just scaling on the top of each, leadership and finance and economics. And you go through all these things and you don't become an expert on any of them, right? But they're fascinating and they're interesting and they help you see things in a bigger picture of how business works and the standard language of business. And so I definitely think, I know that experience just let my mind start thinking about, oh, I can expand in this way, or I can think about this way, or here's a skill that I can put to work right now that I would have never thought of before.
Yeah.
So
it
definitely was.
I say the same thing when people ask me all the time. Most of what I know, I taught myself, or I went and learned just on my own.
Yeah.
But I do think the education helps you open some doors for you, helps you network, helps you to think in different ways. I'm 100% a proponent of getting an education, but that can be in a lot of different ways. Right? Like I'm all for developing a skill set that will pay you, not just having a piece of paper. Right? Like you would have gained no value in it, whatever point in your career, choosing to go back after 20 plus years in practice, say, hey, I'm going to go back to school and go get an MBA. The value was all in what skills can I take from this? And how can I go implement that into my career to become better?
Absolutely.
Yeah, very cool.
That's great.
So a lot of what we talked about is directly influenced by your background in dentistry. Have you noticed or have you seen or experienced, because some of these same principles hold true for whatever the business is. Yeah, it doesn't matter, right? Take dentistry out, plug some other company in, creating efficiencies, being able to scale, getting employees to buy into the mission and vision of the organization. Maybe talk about your experience that way or things that you've observed with other people, being involved in the community, of being able to just scale businesses or those that have succeeded. What are principles and things that you've seen other people integrate into their lives and into their businesses that have made them be successful outside of what you've been able to do?
Yeah, that probably goes. Do you mind if I just take that question, just tweak a little bit philosophically on it?
Go ahead.
You and I, we love being entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We love thinking about it. We just can't go to bed without thinking about it. It's like, what can I do now? How can I make this better?
Totally.
It never goes away. And it's part of the makeup of being who we are. Yeah. But I think I've had to come to realization that there are many people, including people that I hire to be providers, they don't think about that at all.
Yeah.
It's not important to them. So I've had to come to a place where I've realized, okay, how do I help you grow in the way that's important for you to grow? And maybe it isn't owning a company. So I've come to the conclusion that I'm going to have doctors that are going to be owners with me and entrepreneurs. They're going to be doctor number one in the practice. But the second doctor is going to be somebody they don't want to do that. They just want to be an employee and go home and enjoy it's their job. And they can love that job and it can be perfect for them. They don't want the stress when they go home. And I think I've just had to come to the realization that if they don't want to be entrepreneurs, okay, that's fine. Let me find a place that works for you and works for me. Because if I push entrepreneurship on somebody, then I'm trying to create their life for them. And a lot of them don't want that. I've been pretty good at thinking I could manage people's lives for them. And I've learned over time, I can't. They're going to pick their own life. But I can help them grow within their own life that they want, right? I can be a facilitator to help them get where they want to be financially and how they want to live their work-life balance type thing. That becomes, I spoke to Boise State University. It was like the office professionals about a year or so. They asked me to come talk. Yeah. And the topic I brought up was work-life balance. Is it the death of entrepreneurs? And that's just, it was just a strange thought that hit me one day. It's like, because we're thinking about it all the time, but I don't know that with the whole work-life balance thing, you and I have a work-life balance we have to figure out, whatever that is. How do you define what that's going to be? That's okay. Because I'm always focused on this. I've got to put the energy over here with my family and my church or whatever else I'm doing. But people who are not entrepreneurs, they're thinking of it very differently. They're like, I don't want to bring work home with me.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to do things and not have to work more hours than I have to. It's a different way of applying that concept,
Yep.
right? We're trying to find a way, and they're like, by not working as much, and they're trying to find a way by getting as much good stuff as they can in life, and so I think what I'm getting at with this is I find it just interesting that you and I and in the entrepreneurial world have to make room for people who don't want to be entrepreneurial. And my only worry is if everybody's seeking this proverbial work-life balance, is someone going to stop trying to live this world where I'm always thinking about it? Because entrepreneurs can't stop thinking about it, right? And others can. They can just shut it right off.
Yeah.
So I think that's just it's a strange question. I don't think it ever really is going to go away. But it was to me as a fascinating thought. It's like, if everybody's seeking this, will we have less people involved in being entrepreneurial?
For sure, right? Like I woke up, yesterday was Memorial Day, right? I woke up yesterday morning at 6 a.m. and I'm listening to a podcast, standing out on my grass, doing some grounding. And like I went for a walk because my mind was going, I'm thinking of things and I'm like, okay, like I have to be. My wife and I got up and went to the gym and like, I don't know what it is, but I couldn't sleep in until 9 or 10 o'clock, even on Memorial Day, as much as I wanted to, and frankly, probably needed to. But there's just something that's wired into you where I don't feel like I can be wasting time, right? Like I always feel whatever this internal pressure to always be trying to get better and trying to grow. Mentors, talk to us about mentorship. You've obviously mentored a lot of people in a lot of different capacities, whether that's, personal or professionally. Talk to us about the role of mentors and if you've had any mentors in your life that you feel like made a big impact on you, and what advice you would give to young people today that are just starting out in their career about finding mentors. Or
For sure. Yeah, the greatest example of a person who's a mentor or who knows how to use that is my wife. So my wife, Cherie, she loves to ski and she loves outdoor stuff. She loves education. She loves all of those things. And she always attaches herself to, she goes and finds the best ski instructors. She just got back from a trip to Svalbard. It's a little island that Norway owns up in the Arctic Circle where they climb up mountains and then ski down them. And the boat just takes them from place to place. And she did this in Greenland and in Antarctica. But she only does it after intense preparation with finding the best mentors. She recently finished an Ironman, and she got a sports psychology coach to help her through it. Completely changed her ability to prepare for it. So I learned from her the importance of mentors, just watching her example over and over again. And so I found coaches through the years that were dental specific coaches I just really loved and followed. One of them passed away a year or so ago. I went down to his funeral. I was the only dentist that showed up. A couple dentists showed up there, but he was so amazing at just teaching great things. I'm part of the Vistage group, and so we have a place where you can get together and just share the concepts that we're all dealing with in business, our stress, our frustrations, and our stresses, and be able to work through issues. If you don't have that group of people, or if you don't have somebody that has been through it before you, then you get in this box and you think this is how the world has to be, and you don't see all the other possibilities that are out there. So yeah, I totally agree with you on mentorship and help that way.
So you've given back to the community in a lot of different ways. I know you've served a lot in church, in a lot of different capacities. I mean, I was a young boy, right? And you were a merit badge counselor for me. Talk about the role you've also served, and you may have to fill me in exactly if I'm wording this right, but you were the president of the Idaho chapter of
Idaho State Dental Association.
Idaho State Dental Association. So you served in that capacity.
Yeah.
I know you also have a foundation, giving back to the Nampa schools. Maybe talk about that and talk about how you feel like giving back and being involved in those types of things has benefited you in your life.
Yeah, I think that every one of us feels a need, I hope, a sense that we need to help other people in some way.
I think everyone does.
Yeah, and it's easy just to sit back and say, I don't know what to do. I'm not quite sure what to do. But if you go find a place to offer your services, anything you're interested in. I mean, I was on a library board in Nampa for 5 years, and I'm on what you mentioned, the Nampa Schools Foundation. And it's when you can see a purpose behind something that you just feel like, oh, this is something I can help out with. There are so many people looking for volunteers and looking for help. And it doesn't have to be money. It's just bringing your life experience to someplace. And it could be as big as a huge foundation or as small as a neighborhood watch,
Yeah.
whatever it is, there's a power in being with a group of people who want the world to be better in some way. And I don't mean better in like, we got to go, and politically we got to go take down the enemy. I don't mean that kind of thing. I mean, how can I go out and improve other people's lives in a direct one-to-one fashion? There's power in that, and it can be addictive, and you can find yourself lonely if you abandon that part of your life. And so I just feel that there's great stuff to be part of out there.
Yeah, and I can agree with you more. I'm a firm believer that our happiness is conditional on helping other people to be happy.
Yeah.
Right? Like the most miserable people I know are the people that only focus on themselves, and the happiest people that I know are the ones that are constantly giving back, finding ways to help and to serve and to love other people and impacting their lives to make them better. And so no matter how busy you are, no matter what other things you have going on in your life, the more that you take time to help give back to other people, and that can be, whether you're coaching a youth sports team or working on a foundation or giving back professionally in some way, the people that give back ultimately receive far more than they give. And, I think it's that way by design. And I know that your faith is important to you. And I wanted to kind of ask you a question about that. How do you feel like your faith has impacted the decisions that you've made in your business and in your life and the priorities and finding that balance and what you do, right? Because balance, I think, looks different at different times.
Oh, yeah.
To everyone, but maybe talk about the role that your faith and religion and serving and giving back has played in the decisions that you've made as a business owner or as a father and a husband.
Oh, yeah. I think what faith does is it gives you especially if you get to work with people who are at their lowest points, right? Faith teaches you, hey, there's something greater out there to help you. And part of that is, as I've been called in my life to be in this part of your life at this moment, to understand you as a person, understand your weaknesses, your failures, where your sadness right now, because I know that next year it's me, right? Next year I'm the weak person. Next year I'm the one who's got the failure in some place. And so a faith community is what helps me work through those things. And so just the whole concept of, we know that hurts come from the past. We know that fears and anxieties are in the future. So if I'm dwelling all the time on my past hurts, it's horrible. I hate that feeling. And I know that if I'm dwelling on everything I'm scared of tomorrow that might happen that's terrible, I live in fear. But the great thing about faith is being able to say, hey, we've got repentance and we've got grace that we can take care of those things in the past. Stop carrying those things. Or I have faith in something bigger and more powerful than me, and that it's going to be taken care of in the future. So I don't have to worry about the past and keep carrying with me. And I don't have to sit around and stress about the future. The biggest challenge I have is right now. What's my connection to God right now? What's my connection to other people right now? And the closer I get to God and his love, and now he loves everybody, and the more I accept that he loves everybody, then that changes me. And now I'm able to go love other people. So even if I have to fire somebody, I'm hopefully doing it with the sense of I've done everything I can to help you. And from our interaction that I care about you as a person. But right now, the best for you and the company is for us to part ways because, I'm dealing with things I don't want to deal with and you're not happy. Yeah. So let's move on to the next place. But if it comes from the fact that I'm trying to fill myself with love for other people, to me, that's how faith has helped me the very most in business and in life. And I am not good at it, right? I'm a practitioner of these things. Doesn't mean I got it perfect, right?
Yeah. No, I love that. When you sincerely care about other people, people feel that.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like that's been perhaps the biggest tool of any in working to recruit and to retain high level people is that if people sincerely know that you love and care about them,
yeah,
that they will go run through a brick wall for you. And when people feel that they're loved and they feel that they're cared about, it really does make all the difference. We talked about faith and fear, and I'm a firm believer that both of those things
don't exist.
Yeah,
Can't coexist.
they force us to believe in something that doesn't exist, and we get to choose what that is.
Yeah,
right. We get to choose which of those we're going to choose to believe in, and also that, fear is based on what if something happens, and faith is based on even if something happens.
Yeah,
even if this happens,
God.
I'm going to be okay.
Yeah,
right. Everything's going to be okay.
I love that.
Right. So, no, I appreciate you. Thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah.
Appreciate you sharing your experiences with us, your insights. So much to learn from, so much to digest. I feel like we could probably just do a whole nother episode on some of the things we didn't get a chance to dive into yet, but thank you for sharing your insights and your experience with us.
You bet.
If anyone wants to get hold of you, they want to connect with you, where are ways that people can find you? How do they connect with you? In different ways, your names of your practices, or ways that they could get in touch with you if someone's interested.
Yeah, probably the best way to reach me is through my business email, and that's Kim B. Keller, B as in boy, Kim B. Keller at umedentalgrowth.com. That's umedentalgrowth.com.
Awesome. Very good. I've had people reach out to me and say, hey, I loved your guest. How do I get in touch with them?
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure that we share that so that if people want to get in touch with you, they can. So
yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're so welcome. You betcha.